Hello and welcome to VK Punk Wrestling, your new and soon to be recognized as top source for all things wrestling and sports entertainment related. Please give this video a thumbs up to show your support by super kicking that subscribe button, then Superman punch the bell icon so you're aware of when every video goes live. I am your host, Vin C. Punk. And welcome to today's show where we be giving our review in our typical yay boo style for this past SmackDown. Sorry there hasn't been a video in a couple days. I've been really busy and kind of overwhelmed with some other stuff. We're remodeling our house. We got some stuff going. But this coming week, we got some more content for you. We do, of course, have to acknowledge our BK Punk Wrestling champion, AK Havoc, who is on his road to losing the title during this road to WrestleMania because it should have been me, and I'm coming for my channel's title, so he needs to watch out. VK Punk Wrestling, we the ones for wrestling content. Before we get started on today's video, I of course have to give our usual shout out to our sponsor, Capco Championship Belts, who makes the most beautiful wrestling title replicas. Not even just wrestling, UFC, any title that you've ever seen or really wanted, or even if you want to come up with something original, Abdul is amazing to work with to come up with something like that, much like we have one commissioned for our channel. But Capco doesn't just make titles, folks. They make vests and jackets, gloves and masks, Macho King crowns, and boots and shoes as well. He makes the best products, as you have seen with some of the purchases and many of his pieces that I have. You can see his products by going onto their website at www.capcointernational.com. Their Facebook and email are on the credit screens to this very video. Okay, so now let's get into our review of SmackDown, which is live in Barcelona. It really wasn't live if you're watching it in America. It was live at 3 o'clock, but it didn't air on USA until 8. The announcers welcome us to the show while showing shots of like Cody and Gunther, Mello, Randy Orton, the Street Profits, DIY, and even Paul Heyman entering the building as Joe Tessitore runs down the card. LA Knight gets introduced by Lillian, makes his entrance. We recap last week's U.S. title win, where he beat Shinsuke Nakamura to become the champion for a second time. But Knight's in ring for a promo, and Barcelona chants for Knight. Barcelona is a really hot crowd for this episode, and they are there and very live all night long. LA Knight gives off some yeahs and let me talk to you. He puts over Barcelona and talks about regaining the U.S. title last week, before he's interrupted by Jimmy Uso, who enters with a mic on his way to the ring. Jimmy is desperate to get to WrestleMania. He challenges Knight for a match at Mania, but Solo's music hits, and he enters with the new bloodline. Solo on the mic says that Fatu deserves that title shot, not Jimmy, and tells Jimmy to step aside because he is the failure of the family. Jimmy says that trusting Solo was the only failure he's ever made and mocks Solo for losing to Roman. Knight and Uso then, of course, are attacked by Tama and Solo, but the monster Braun Strowman comes out, and the crowd chants with Strowman as he gets in some face strikes. Like I said, this crowd is on fire. But Nick Aldis then comes out to set up a 6-man tag match to start the show. We go into break, and of course, when we come back, that match is starting. There's not really a whole bunch of action right away. A couple of tag outs to get certain people in the ring. Solo gets out early, but Uso turns it around. Oh, I'm sorry, he gets up early. Starts getting the upper hand, but Uso turns it around and goes up top for 10 punches. Solo hits a spinning solo. Tama in. He gives some yeahs, and Jimmy is isolated in Tama Solo corner. Solo tags back in and lands a hip attack. Jimmy is in bad shape at this point. Really needs to get a tag and get out of there. But Fatu tags in and wears down Jimmy even more. Jimmy fights back finally and gets a tag to LA Knight. You get some back and forth between Fatu and LA Knight. Knight gets hit with a Samoan drop by Fatu, but hits a swinging neck breaker into a DDT, and Knight gets a near fall. Fatu fights back. He gets stopped, and Knight gets his hopping elbow from the top rope. Some heel tactics next for the new bloodline to get back up in the match before we go into break. When we come back, Solo is still on top with Knight. Knight dodges a hip attack and reverses a bag suplex for a double down. Both are trying to get the tags, and not really. They're both really desperate to get a tag at this point. Thomas stops Knight momentarily, but Strowman gets in and cleans house. Then choo-choo, he nails everyone on the outside. Tonga gets power slammed by Strowman, who gets the 3 for the win. Post-match, Solo hits him with the Samoa spike, but Knight comes in to attack Solo and chases him out through the audience. Fatu super kicks Jimmy into the ring to pick the bones of Braun Strowman, lands a moonsault, goes up for that amazing moonsault he does, and then he lands another. Strowman's just left in the ring after the attack, but Fatu gets up and hits a third moonsault. After you think it's all over, Fatu comes running back for more to plow Strowman through the timekeeper area for a final message onto this. I, of course, are going to have to give this a yay. The segment was really entertaining and in a lot of ways. A lot of good work throughout it. It told the story that it needed to tell, of course, got everyone involved to try to fill up some time here while keeping the individual storylines still moving forward, even if it wasn't at like a quick pace. I still want to know who is going to get the title shot, because it can't be another triple threat match after it's looking like this WrestleMania is going to be the triple threat WrestleMania, because all the storylines look like they're booking into triple threats for their payoffs, and I just feel like we're going to have a lot of them. After that, we get a recap of Jade at Elimination Chamber, as well as Naomi and Bianca from last week, and Jade's return as well. Jade gets an interview with Kathy. Jade says she is okay and she's ready to go, but she runs down Naomi as playing the victim. She kind of pitches her way as how she's going to get to the top of the card and how she's unstoppable. Says she saw Naomi running away and attacked her more than just physically due to this. She's also hurt emotionally, and she's dealing with that. But Liv and Raquel are talking loudly in the background as they're walking up to interrupt Jade. And you get some exchange of trash talk between the two parties. And Jade challenges Liv to a match next week. BFAB gets shown on her way to the ring, talks some Spanish, and then runs down Charlotte before getting her entrance. Okay, then after the break, Charlotte gets her entrance. Kind of a lot of dancing around in the beginning, a long time before we actually get a lockup between Charlotte and BFAB, who BFAB gets pushed into the corner. She runs the ropes before another tie-up, and that's where Charlotte gets the better of the confrontation. We get some classic Flair chops, and BFAB battles back a little bit going into a break. When we come back from that break, Charlotte does Stephanie Vaquer's rear leg triangle head slams. I bet you she's seen Stephanie do that, and she's like, hey, I want to do that, and just took it. Sounds like something that Charlotte would do. She goes for a figure 8, but BFAB kicks her off and into the corner. Charlotte gets a little cocky, but BFAB fights back and gets a hot run. Actually gets a pretty good showcase against Charlotte, even though we all know who's going to win here. There's a big kick to a near fall, but Charlotte turns it all around and hits a natural selection and then locks in the figure 8 for the win. She won't let go after the bell, so post-match, Tiffany comes out to confront Charlotte in a big brawl in the ring, where a bunch of security officials make their way to the ring and try to break it up. Charlotte hits some security and keeps the attack going. This keeps going for a while, with each one of them breaking free to attack the other. This segment is long-winded. It went on for a really long time. But Tiffany swantons off the top rope into a pile where she completely misses Charlotte. And then, of course, later on, we get another segment where she did it off the monitor and or off the LED wall, and she still completely missed Charlotte. Boo for this segment, mostly because of Charlotte. I'm starting to like BFAB in her come up, but Charlotte is overplayed and didn't need to be throwing her weight around when it comes to BFAB, who has a pretty good future. But during the post match, Tiffany missed the swantons. I mean, she didn't like miss; she landed on all the security people, but she completely missed Charlotte. And proper wrestling fans will know that this isn't a mistake because Charlotte be doing this kind of stuff all the time, and she's terrible about it. She's not taking the weight and risking injury, so she just makes it look bad anyway. There's been other occasions in the past where this has been a thing for her. But anyway, this was just terrible. I like that Tiffy came out and got the better of Charlotte, but I hated this segment, mostly because of Charlotte and her antics. Um, when that's finally over, we get a Drew McIntyre vignette. It recaps the times he gets screwed, starting with the Damian Priest cash in, then Clash at the Castle, and his Money in the Bank cash in. He talks the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber, and how Damian has almost been a part of all these, and this is about putting Damian Priest down for good so that he can never take anything from Drew again. We'll give this a little yay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it definitely told the story. Before we go into another commercial, Miz gets his entrance for Miz TV segment. We come back. Miz is in the ring, but Tiffany and Charlotte are continuing to brawl on the ramp all of a sudden again. And this is where Tiffany does the swanton from the top of the LED board, but still misses Charlotte. We finally go back to the ring where the Miz is, still waiting for his time. He introduces Cody, saying he should have took the Rock's offer, but got beat up by two rappers instead, Cena and Travis Scott. He says that Cody will not beat Cena. Cody gets his entrance finally, and Barcelona sings along with him so loud you can barely hear the theme itself over all of them. And Miz, of course, says to cut the music. He's obviously playing overly heel in this segment by cutting down Cody so much before Cody is even gotten his entrance. And then all of this, I don't know why we're trying to make the Miz look so bad here. He says he doesn't have time for the pandering because he's already been interrupted by Tiffany. So Cody just nails him with a few shots and hits the crossroads. He grabs the mic and says he doesn't want to talk to anyone but John Cena. And this segment ends rather abruptly and kind of anticlimactically. Boo for this spot. I did not like this segment at all. I think The Miz deserves so much better than to just come out, be interrupted, and then get beat up by Cody. He deserves so much better than that. And this segment kind of lacked anything. There wasn't really much here to grab hold of at all. Cody just says he wants to talk to Cena, which of course we find out later in the show that will take place next week on the show. Excuse me. So next we see a video from earlier in the day. Shinsuke and Nick Aldis are talking about a rematch before Damian interrupts them, asking about Drew and what his deal is. This kind of leads to some dialogue in multiple languages for one reason or another. What I thought was a challenge to a match, I guess. And Nick Aldis grants the match. We immediately go into that. We get a commercial, but then when we come back from the commercial, we get a little vignette, and there's not really much to go on. Just the feet running the ropes really made it seem like it's Rey Fenix, and it probably is Rey Fenix, but if you don't know Rey Fenix, you wouldn't have guessed that by seeing this video. Nakamura gets his entrance to the ring for his match against Damian Priest. And he gets the early lead, delivers a lot of kick before Damian Priest turns it around and delivers a lot of strikes in return. Shinsuke gets sent over the top rope by a lariat from Priest, and we go into a break. When we come back, Nakamura is up with a sort of crossface locked in. He goes up to the top. He goes up top into Priest, who delivers a flatliner in reversal. Priest runs hot. He hits a broken arrow. The action spills to the outside where Damian Priest gives Shinsuke a tackle onto the announce table. Damian Priest gets Shinsuke back into the ring finally for some old school, the old school walking the rope spot, and calls for the strike. Shinsuke reverses it and goes for a cross arm breaker, but Damian gets out for a strike exchange. Priest lines up for the choke slam, but Drew is outside and distracts Priest. And Shinsuke gets up before Damian Priest reverses it into a South of Heaven for the win. And that's when Drew gets involved and the match gets thrown out. Wait, what? Post-match, the battle between Priest and Drew continue, and Drew thumbs the eyes, leaving Damian Priest prone for a surprise Shinsuke Nakamura Kinshasa knee. Drew attacks Priest some more, takes him out and gets the stairs, and and hits Damian Priest with the stairs. A ref finally appears and tried to take Drew away, but I'm sure he will come back for more. It seems to be the theme of the night is big brawls that are not involved in a match. But Priest gets up, and Drew joins him in the ring and lands a Claymore, then sells out to Priest's laying body and stomps Damian before finally leaving. Boo for this segment, and definitely multiple reasons. One, Shinsuke didn't really get a clean match. He had his lackluster U.S. title run, and when he had the IC title, that was really lackluster, and WWE just doesn't seem to advance Shinsuke when he actually has the chance to advance. He's always missing, and he comes back and wins a title and gets a title run where he's not really in the picture, and I think he deserves so much better than this. I just don't think his character is going anywhere. I think he needs more than this, and he deserves more than that for sure. Also, this is like the third brawl or unsanctioned brawl spot in this show. The first being Charlotte and Tiff, then Miz and Cody, and now this. I think they're overplaying this on tonight's show dramatically. Next, Kathy is backstage with DIY, talking to them about their match tonight with the Street Profits. DIY runs down the Street Profits. Motor City Machine Guns show up and run down DIY and call them out next after the Street Profits, which, if you know what happens later, you'll know that that's going to be probably changing. Randy is shown on his way to the ring before the break. When we come back from commercial, there's some football player, I don't know, in the crowd. And Kathy Kelly is backstage with Piper Niven, Alpine Fire, and Chelsea Green. Kathy says Chelsea squeaked out a win before Chelsea interrupts and boosts herself up a lot. But Zelina shows up and cuts her off in an effort to get a shot at the title. Piper Niven tells Zelina that she'll have to go through her and Alba Fire first. Zelina says she has no problem with that and looks forward to it. Randy finally gets his entrance for Carmelo Hayes, who gets his entrance after Randy. The Barcelona crowd sings along to Randy's theme with the same gusto that they sang to Cody's song, and you can barely hear the theme because the roar of the crowd is so loud singing the song. This crowd is really on fire. Amazing crowd for this show. Even doing better than the crowd Monday at MSG, which was a little underwhelming, if I must say so myself, considering where they were. Suddenly we get a recap of the KO piledriver that took Randy out for a while, and also recapped his return at the Elimination Chamber, really building to this punt kick from Randy, though. Some verbal shenanigans between him and Mello before the match starts. Mello's trying to handshake, and Randy's not going for it. But then Randy finally goes to shake his hand, and Mello blows him off when he does. This heats Randy up pretty early, and he goes up top for 10 punches and throws Mello into the ring post outside. Randy puts Mello on the announce table in vintage Randy Orton form with that back slam, that back suplex he does, and we go into a commercial ad after that. Upon returning to the in-ring action, Mello has Orton in a headlock and gets a hot run for a near fall. Mello locks in another headlock and brings Randy to the mat. Randy battles back into the fight, hits a couple of snap slams, one that looked kind of rough, but it looks like Randy Orton saved it. He didn't make Mello land bad. It seems like he really protected Mello, but it looked like it could have ended bad. It just didn't. He hangs Mello up on the rope for that draping DDT that is classic Orton. Mello bails out of the ring before Randy can hit the RKO, though. Mello baits Randy in and hangs him up on the rope with a stunner, then goes up top, misses, but lands a kick. Does his springboard DDT move for another near fall. Mello goes back to the top, where we get a strike exchange on the ropes. We get a pretty suplex off the middle rope from Randall, who curls up to strike an RKO. We get a couple reversals out of that before Randy actually does hit it, I guess from out of nowhere. I kind of saw it coming, but it was supposed to be the typical Randy Orton out of nowhere spot. Post-match, Randy tries to shake Mello's hand again, and Mello mushes his face. So Orton gives him another RKO and then lines him up for the punt. But Mello gets pulled out by Kevin Owens. Randy attacks Kevin Owens and runs him off through the crowd again. So we're going to go yay for this. This was an amazing segment. You had two amazing competitors in the ring having a good wrestle. This was as good as it should have been, including the continuation of the KO RKO storyline. So yay for it all around. It was really entertaining, and the crowd was behind it, and you got to see two amazing people wrestle. So after that, we get a recap of Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu from earlier in the night to a backstage segment of the New Bloodline where Fatu runs down Braun and says they will have another match next week. We cut to ringside, and Gunther is getting an entrance for his match. We go into break during that entrance, and when we come back, another weird vignette that doesn't really give you much information as to who they're advertising. Of course, the sheets and the news outlets have proposed this to be Malachi Aleister Black, who is probably coming back to WWE. So hopefully we'll get some payoff to this soon. I know WrestleMania is just in the distance, but I'd hate to see all of these comebacks or all of these returns be made to happen at Mania. Save some of them for the Raw after Mania. Do some of them before the show actually gets here. So then Gunther is finally in the ring with a mic for his promo. He calls himself the greatest European wrestler of all time. Says he is here to prove a point. Basically calls Jay a clown. But he calls a kid from the back, referencing, of course, Axiom, whose name was A. Kid before he became Axiom. I knew this right away because I knew Axiom before he was Axiom, so I told my partner, I said, Axiom is going to come out. And, of course, he did. This match gets underway with some quick-paced action that doesn't really leave anyone on top. Axiom gets a lot of crowd reaction in his home country and gets Gunther in an armbar over the rope before continuing his attack on the ring general. Gunther stops all of this momentum with a chop that sends Axiom down as we go into an ad. When we come back, Gunther tries to take the mask off of Axiom, but Axiom gets the better and hits a top rope dropkick. Axiom lays in some strikes and reverses a Gunther powerbomb. He reverses a Gunther powerbomb and reverses a suplex into a near fall. Gunther stops Axiom's momentum with a dropkick and a powerbomb to finish the match, but Axiom kicks out. Gunther pulls Axiom and goes up top for the splash, but Axiom catches him, gets up, and finds himself up for a powerbomb on the top rope, but Hurricane Rana's out of it and hits his big kick on the ring general after that. He only gets a near fall, however. Once they're both on their feet, they come to some strike exchange, but Axiom locks in an armbar, which Gunther reverses into a powerbomb. He hits a second one and wins the match. What a match. This was filled with everything. Definitely a yay for this match. It was awesome. In post-match, Gunther locks in a sleeper and puts Axiom to sleep. It just kind of leaves him in the middle of the ring. But the rest of this match was great. It definitely was what it was supposed to be. Bringing the local famous guy to put him in the match of his life against the main champion, but you know he'll never win, even though he powers up so many times and really takes it to Gunther in front of his home crowd. Excellent match, excellent action, excellent storytelling. This match was a 5 of 5 for sure. After that, we get a recap of Roman's return this past Monday on Raw. And then more recap about Monday night's main event between Rollins and Punk. We cut to in-ring where Paul Heyman is trying to hype us. Today is Roman Reigns Day. He talks up the release of the 2K video game, says his friend Punk has problems with Roman, like Roman being Roman and Roman being the face of the game. Apparently a lot of people aren't happy with that, but it's not CM Punk Day, it's Roman Reigns Day. And it was and will never be Seth Rollins Day. Heyman says he hates Seth's song, says that Roman will appear next week. Yay for this segment, mostly because it's Paul Heyman, and he is simply the best of all time. We all know where this is going, right? He's going to turn on Roman and side with Punk in the future, so I'm looking forward to this, but nobody's better than Paul, so always gets a yay. Next, the Street Profits are backstage and yell at the camera on their way through Gorilla, where they get their entrance to the ring. Jimmy and Gunther are backstage next. Gunther talks to Jimmy, wanting him to talk to Jay that the match at Mania is not for Jay, but Jimmy says Jay will win. We get DIY's entrance after that. So a little short spot there. Gunther trying to sell out to Jimmy about Jay and tell Jay that it's really not in his best interest for the match, but Jay just fights him and says, hey, look, you're going to get beaten by my brother. So, DIY, like I said, make their entrance. There's only 13 minutes left of airtime for this match, and I assume that it will go to a no contest for some reason. That aged really well, huh? The Street Profits get an early lead where Montez gets a near fall. Ciampa stomps Dawkins. Joey Gargano gets in. Dawkins works through the double team and catches Johnny before making the tag to Tez, who gets a hot run. Pretty Deadly is shown watching from backstage as Montez Ford gets shut down when he's pushed from the apron into the barricade. Ciampa is up and Montez has no gas until he does and reverses into a back body drop. Gargano misses while Ford tried to get the tag. He finally does as Dawkins gets the hot run when he gets tagged in. Dawkins hits high octane offense for a little while until he gets a near fall. Montez tags in for a double team that gets a near fall. Ford goes up top. He lands a 450 into Ciampa's knees. DIY double team for a near fall broken up by Dawkins. We get some back and forth. Everybody getting a spotlight here for an everyone down spot. a lot more back and forth before the Street Profits set up for their big move. So the Street Profits run hot and finally hit their move. Montez covers, but Ciampa breaks it up. Dawkins tags, and Ciampa tags out. Dawkins goes for a swanton, but misses. A big double team from DIY, but Dawkins kicks out. Joey Gargano gets in, and DIY goes for the meat in the middle, but Gargano kicks Ciampa. Dawkins hits a spine buster as Montez goes up to the top for the frog splash, which he lands to acquire the 1-2-3 for the win and the championships. Once again, what a freaking match this was. So yay. This had all the action, all the excitement you would hope for in a main event match, even if it's the tag team division. All of these divisions that Vince McMahon used to have so little faith in are now tearing up the main roster and the main events of all of their shows. It's amazing and good to see. This is definitely up there with that last tag team match main event I said was up for tag team match of the year. The main events that have been getting put out are amazing. This is all amazing stuff. The women's division, the tag division, NXT, all of these divisions are really putting in a lot of work and doing some really amazing stuff. It's great to see that wrestling has really come back together as a multifaceted entertainment company, and not so much is being focused on the men or the single wrestlers. Like, it's really well-rounded these days. So this event was a mixed bag of nuts, and with some really bad stuff and some really good stuff. The crowd was hype and energetic through it, so because of that, I'm going to give the whole show, the show as a whole, a big yay. Even though some of it was kind of dumb. Well, that's all I have for you today. Once again, guys, I'm sorry I haven't made a video in a couple days, but I'm overwhelmed with my own hectic life, and this was as soon as I was able to put this out. Going to be paying more attention to the channel coming up this week. I currently have some remodeling I'm doing inside of my house, but I plan to see you guys some more with the returns of some of our other personalities this coming week. Look for a Raw review and preview, another midweek news video, and then Friday's reviews and previews too. I hope everyone is having a great day. Sometimes it's easy to be overwhelmed, just like I am with my stuff, and not be able to know how to handle it all. Just take a deep breath, because you are an amazing person, and you can accomplish all the things in front of you and get to where you want to be. Today is just a speck in the big picture of life, and better days are coming. You have the power to create your life the way you want it, and I know you can do it. I believe in you. So chin up, tits out, and deuces. I'm Vince Punk for VK Punk Wrestling. We the ones for wrestling content.